Hello, good day and welcome. I am by name Samuel Babatunde, and today we're going to be looking at agricultural science. Agricultural science, and still on our topic, which we've been discussing in our previous classes, that is the forms of agriculture. And today we're going to be narrowing it down to the snail rearing and that's snail rearing. Yes, we're going to be doing snail rearing and fishery today. So we're going to be looking at fishery and snail rearing. Remember in our previous classes, that's the previous classes on the forms of agriculture, the first we looked at was crop what cultivation. We look at crop cultivation, we look at the meaning, and then we look at the factors that affect what a farmer's choice of crop cultivation. And then we also look at the livestock rearing. We look at the horticulture which is divided into three, the pomology, the loriculture, and the floriculture. And then we look at the livestock farming. We look at livestock farming also. We also look at the apiculture, that is the bee rearing. So today, for the purpose of today's class, we're going to be looking at the fishery and snail rearing. Fishery and snail rearing. So stay tuned as we progress. Now, like I said, I am by name Samuel Babatunde, and today's topic is still on the forms of agriculture. We're going to be looking at fishery and snailry, that's snail rearing. Fishery and snailry or snail rearing. Now, we see that agriculture is divided into various forms. It's divided into various forms. That agriculture is very vast. It is vast. And there are different forms of agriculture. That is, there are different forms of practices which differs under agriculture. Is it the livestock rearing? Is it the crop cultivation? Is it the rearing of bees for honey and wax? Or is it the rearing of fishes, as in fishery? Or snails, like as in snailry? So all these are the various forms of agriculture. And we'll discuss about the various forms. Now, for today, we're going to be looking at fishery and snailry, also known as snail rearing. Now, what is fishery? Another word for fishery is simply refers to what? Fish farming. So you can either replace fishery with fish farming. These words are the same. Now, this is the science of rearing or keeping fish in any body of water, natural or artificial. So fishery simply means what? The science or the practice of rearing fish in any body of water. Like we know, fishes are what? Aquatic organisms. They are aquatic organisms and they cannot survive what? In a body outside water. That is, they cannot survive on land. They can't survive in the deserts. They can't survive in terrestrial habitats because they're aquatic animals. They require what? Water for survival. So they have to be reared in the river. They have to be reared in body of water. They have to be reared in body of water. And this water body can either be a natural water body or artificial water body. Now, the natural water body, like we know, includes the rivers, the sea. You find fishes in the rivers, even in some streams and the oceans. You find fishes there. The artificial are the ones that are man-made. That is the man-made water body, like the pond. And there are different type of ponds. So depending on the aspect of fish we are going into. But fishery just simply means what? The science of rearing fish in any body of water, be it natural or artificial. And I told you that it is because fish is an aquatic organism and requires what? Water for its survival. Now, fish occurs naturally in the sea and other large bodies of water. So you can find fishes even normally without even rearing fish. If you go to the rivers, to the sea, you find fishes there. In fish rearing, ponds, which are the artificial environments, remember I told you that the body of water in which fishes are being reared can either be natural or artificial. Now, an example of this artificial water body is the pond. Pond is a man-made environment where fishes are reared, and these ponds are suitable for the growth of fish. Now, when fishes are reared in pond, it is the sole responsibility of the farmer to provide the fishes with with the adequate feed for them to mature, either for consumption or for sale. Remember, normally, fishes occur naturally in the rivers and in the sea. And these fishes that occur naturally in the rivers and the sea, they feed for themselves. They feed on on the foods that are found in the water bodies. These foods, we call them the planktons and the that's the phytoplanktons and the zooplanktons. So all these what are the foods that these fishes feed on in the river. But now when you practice fishery, when you begin to rear fish in an artificial environment, that is a man-made environment, such as what the pond, it is now the sole responsibility of the farmer to provide these fishes with what with their adequate feed that is needed for them to grow big. You know, the main aim of this fish rearing is that what for you to rear them from what from when they are small. We call them fishlings when they are small. Fishlings when they are small, you rear them till they become what mature and big and enough for what for consumption or for sale. Remember, there are two types of agriculture. We say what we have the subsistence agriculture and the commercial agriculture. So you might actually be rearing fishes or practice fish farming just for your family consumption, and we call that what subsistence farming or agriculture. Or you might be rearing what fishes or practicing fishery for what for business purposes, and we call that aspect the commercial agriculture. So it is important that what when you are rearing fishes in an artificial environment such as your pond, you should know that it is your sole responsibility that what you provide them with the adequate feed that is required for them to mature. Because normally in their natural environment, they feed for themselves. But once you cage them in an artificial environment, it is now your sole responsibility to provide for their needs to aid their survival. Now, like we know, fishery involves what the rearing of fish. But now, when this practice now involves other aquatic organisms aside fish, it is no longer what fishery. Now you've gone away from fishery. It is now what aquaculture. Aquaculture simply refers to the science of rearing different what aquatic organisms. Remember, fishery is the science of rearing what fishes, and that is why we call it fish farming. As it is the science of rearing or keeping fish in any body of water. But now, when this practice now involves what the rearing or catching of fish and other aquatic organisms, it is no longer fishery. It is now what aquaculture. That is to say, fishery is a branch of what agriculture and aquaculture. That is, your fishery is a part of aquaculture. So aquaculture simply refers to the science of rearing or keeping what aquatic organisms other than fishes. And these aquatic organisms refers to organisms that lives in water. And examples include the lobster, the prawns, the crayfish, the shrimps. All these are aquatic organisms. So when you involve in the rearing of fishes and other aquatic organisms, like the examples I've mentioned, you are now practicing what we call aquaculture. You're practicing what we call aquaculture. But when it is only what fish, when you are only concerned with the science of rearing what fish in the water body, then you are practicing what fishery. But if you are rearing fish and other aquatic organisms, it is termed aquaculture. So it is termed aquaculture. Now, fish may also be raised in the ponds. Yeah, these are the artificial bodies that are created by man. Ponds. You have the dams and lakes, and then you have what plastic ponds also. You have the plastic ponds. That's these ponds that are made up of plastics. So fishes are reared in these places, and the ponds, in the dams and lakes, and in plastic ponds. In plastic ponds. So now, note fish commonly raised include as example of fishes which are commonly raised includes the tilapia. Tilapia is a very, very common example of fish, which are reared. Tilapia is a very, very common example of fish that is reared. Then we have the clarias. The clarias here is a normal catfish. The catfish we know today is what is the clarias. So clarias is another example of fish that are commonly reared. They are commonly reared. So like I said, I mentioned tilapia, I mentioned clarias, and then we also have another one, which is the heterotis. We have the heterotis. So like I said, fish commonly raised include the tilapia, the clarias, the heterotis, the perch, the carp, and so on. So all these are they are the examples of fish that are commonly reared. Now, fish that occur naturally in large bodies of water feed on planktons, like I told you. Normally, you find fishes what in natural body and water body, like the sea, in the oceans and the rivers, and all these fishes feed for themselves. They feed on what on planktons. They feed on planktons. Now, plankton simply refers to as what as fish what food. That's naturally occurring fish food, and this planktons is divided into two. We have the phytoplanktons, that is what the plants like. That's the fish food, which are what which occur naturally that are plants like. And then we have the zooplanktons. These ones are what are animal like. They are fish food that occur naturally, which are animal like. So fishes that occur naturally in large bodies of water feed on these planktons, be it the phytoplanktons or the zooplanktons. While those that are raised in pond are fed with what formulation feeds. Like I told you now, once you engage in fishery and you begin to what rear fishes in ponds, artificial water body, it is necessary, it is mandatory that what you take the sole responsibility of providing these fishes with their feeds. And now these feeds are what are formulated feeds. They are formulated. They are formulated feeds. Remember, those that occur naturally in large bodies of water, that is in natural and water body, those are what these ones are fed, they feed on planktons. They feed on planktons. While those that are raised in ponds are fed with formulations feed. They are fed with formulation feed. Those ones are fed with formulation feeds. Now we're going to be moving straight to the next, which is we're going to be moving straight to the next now, which is what snailry. Snailry. We're going to be moving straight to snailry, also known as heliculture. Now, this snailry simply refers to as snail rearing. We call it heliculture or snailry. Heliculture or snailry. Now, this involves rearing snails in fenced areas or cage on the farm or at the back of the house. Heliculture just what simply refers to what the rearing of snails, either in fenced areas, or in cages, or in the farm, or at the back of the house. Now, the floor of the cages or fenced areas are lined with topsoil. Yes, because snail actually requires all this topsoil for their normal activity. So wherever you are creating a fenced area or cage where you rear what snails, you must ensure that the floor is lined with topsoil, that is the soil, the surface. Your floor must be lined with what? With soil. Adequate feed and water are given to the snail to enhance good growth and development at the subsistence level. Subsistence level here just refers to what subsistence agriculture, like the one we practice what at the back of our house. You have to provide them with what adequate feed and adequate water to enhance their growth. So snailry or heliculture just simply refers to the rearing of snail in fenced areas or cage or what cages in the farm or at the back of the house. And like I said, the floor must be lined with topsoil because it's very important in snail rearing. It's very important in snail rearing. Now, old tires or earthen pots are used for raising snails. In case you don't have a fenced area or maybe you don't have a cage, you can what, engage the use of old tires. You can engage the use of old tires or earthen pots. You know these earthen pots, these clay pots, pots that are made of clay that have been fired. You can raise snails in these places because what these old tires and earthen pots are actually a cool environment for snails. And you know snail rods require what cool environments. They require cool environment. So this actually provides what a cool environment for what for raising snail. Snail feed on green leaves of plants like pawpaw, the water leaf, fruits of banana and plantain. Even the pawpaw, the tubers, they feed on fruits also. So these are the feeds that you can what that you can give to the snail when you're in snail. Because I told you it is important that you provide the snail with what with adequate feed, adequate food and water to ensure their maximum growth. To ensure maximum growth. And the feeds that this snail actually feed on include the green leaves, leaves of pawpaw, the water leaf, and also they feed on fruits like banana, the plantain, your pawpaw, and tubers. They also feed on household waste like what the maize chaff cooked rice, and pap. So all these are what snails feed on. These are what snails feed on. And like I told you, snail can be reared even at home and in the farm. So snail rearing is a very, very simple form of agriculture. It's one of the easier or the one of the easiest form of what agriculture, because you can do this even at the back of your home. You just need old tires or earthen pots. You mustn't create a cage. Now, snail meat provides protein and minerals in the diet. Like we know, protein is a class of food which is required both to build the body. It's a body building food. And these minerals are actually required for the proper functioning of the body and even the various organs in the body. So snail meat provides us with this protein and minerals that is required for our survival. And it is low in cholesterol. That is, the meat derived from snail has low cholesterol and fats. And remember, this cholesterol is the one that is responsible for what? For obesity. It causes obesity and can even lead to stroke, because when cholesterol becomes what's accumulated in the body, it can block some channels in the body and leads to stroke. So this snail meat is actually what's low in this cholesterol, which is dangerous to the health. And it can be used in the treatment of hypertension and poor eyesight. So all these are the importance of the snail meat. That is the importance of the meat that is gotten from snail. They provide protein and minerals. They are low in cholesterol, and so they are safe for consumption, and they can be used in the treatment of hypertension and poor eyesight. So if you are asked for the importance of snail rearing, you can just give its importance as provision of meat, and then use in the treatment of hypertension and poor eyesight. So all these are the importance of snail rearing. And with this, we've come to the end of today's lesson on the forms of agriculture, and also we'll wrap up the forms of agriculture we've been discussing in our previous classes. Now, before we go, I have an assignment for us, and the assignment says, one, what is fishery? And two, mention two importance of snail rearing. Mention two importance of snail rearing. So before we go, we'll do a brief recap on what we discussed. Today we discuss on the forms of agriculture, where we look at fishery and snailry. And then under fishery, we say fishery simply refers to the science of rearing or keeping fish in any body of water, be it the natural body of water body or the artificial um, water body. And like I told you, I say normally fishes occur naturally in these water bodies, like the rivers and the sea. And these fishes feed for themselves. They feed for themselves. But now, once you engage in fishery, once you begin to keep fishes in artificial environment such as pond, it is now your sole responsibility as a fish farmer to provide these fishes with their feed for them to grow to attain maturity. And note, when this fishery now involve catching of other animals, that is, when you now begin to practice the what the rearing of other aquatic animals aside fishery, it's no longer fishery. We now call it aquaculture, because fishery only deals with the rearing of fishes. But when you begin to involve other aquatic organisms like your lobster, the prawns, the crayfish, and shrimps, it is now referred to as aquaculture. Aquaculture. Now note, the commonly raised fishes, that is the commonly reared fishes, include the tilapia, the clarias, like I told you, the normal catfish, the heterotis, the perch, the carp, etc. So if you are asked to list some examples of fishes that are commonly reared, they include the tilapia, the clarias, heterotis, the perch, and the carp. And note that fishes that occur in natural water bodies feed for themselves, like I told you, and this food is referred to as planktons. And this plankton is divided into two. I say we have the phytoplanktons and we have the zooplanktons. The phytoplanktons and the zooplanktons. The phytoplanktons are those from plant origin, while the zooplanktons are those from the animal origin. While those that are rare in ponds are being fed with formulated feeds. That is, these feeds are being processed in the industries. So fish can actually be kept in an aquarium for aesthetic purpose also. You can keep fish for beauty. That's what this aesthetic means. So you can actually rear fishes in the aquariums for beauty. Now we move to snailry or heliculture, where I said snailry involves the rearing of snails, and this snailry can actually be practiced in fenced areas or cages, either in a farm or in a house. And that's why I say snailry is one of the simplest way or simplest form of agriculture, because you can practice it even at back of your house, like at your backyard. You can practice snailry with the use of old tires, earthen pots, that's this clay pots. You can practice heliculture. So it is a very, very simple form of agriculture. It's a very simple form of agriculture. And what you require to feed these snails are very, very what easy and very affordable. The green leaves, pawpaw leaf, water leaf, and also fruits, which are everywhere. And household waste like your maize chaff, the cooked rice. So all these are what snails feed on. And I see some of the importance of snail or heliculture is that snail meat provides us with what proteins and minerals, and it is low in cholesterol, so it is very, very good for consumption. And this snail meat can be used for the treatment of hypertension and poor eyesight. So you can see that what snail meat is a very, very good meat, and it's very, very good for the health. So it's important that we try to consume this snail, because the snail meat is very, very what's good for the health. And then I give an assignment. I say, one, what is fishery? And two, mention two importance of snail rearing. Now this assignment is submitted on our WhatsApp group. So with this, we've come to the end of today's lesson, and also we've wrapped up the lesson on forms of agriculture. Remember, I said that these forms of agriculture refers to the various aspects in agriculture, that is the various practices in agriculture. We talk about the livestock farming, the crop cultivation, we talk about the horticulture, where we mention the pomology, the olericulture, and the floriculture. We talk about apiculture, which is the bee rearing. We talk about snailry, which is what the snail rearing, or we call it heliculture. And we talk about the fishery, that is the fish rearing. So all these are the various forms of what agriculture. And with this, we've wrapped up what the forms of agriculture. Now, if you're watching this video on YouTube, please ensure you subscribe to the channel to get more of our videos on our Zoom classes. And also ensure to follow us on our Zoom classes to have better understanding on the various topics in agricultural science. I still remain Samuel Babatunde. Thank you and God bless you.